Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to start today by acknowledging that we are meeting today on National Indigenous Peoples Day here in Canada, and I'm thrilled from a personal perspective to have representatives from the two largest tribal councils in my riding. I have Ms. Morasti and Vice Chief Desani here representing 21 out of 25 First Nations in my riding, and that's I don't think it was planned that way, but it worked out very good to have them here today, and I'm really excited about that. So I want to welcome both of you. Ms. Morasti, I'm going to start with you, and then I'll get some time in with Vice Chief Desani as well. But boy, you gave us about 75 different things that we could talk about relative to the pandemic response, and there's so much there. I want to focus a little bit, just first of all, on emergency planning. You briefly mentioned emergency planning, and I know the 9 First Nations that you represent, some are more remote than others. Could you just share a little bit about the emergency plans and what benefit they were, EMO coordination and some of that? I know you talked about the Northwest Incident Command Center, which arose in the midst of the pandemic, but maybe what has been learned about the importance of the emergency plans, not just being a plan on a shelf that grows dust, but something that's a vibrant document that is ready to go next time we face an emergency, in your case in Northwest Saskatchewan?
Good afternoon. Thank you for that question. What we've learned is that the emergency response plans need to be revised and updated on a continual basis as living documents, and we have to update the changes that occur in our contacts in the provincial system, in our federal contacts, and at the community level, as there is a number of turnover in staff and changes and the need for communication and to work together. With the wildfire that occurred last year with the Buffalo River Dene Nation, there was some blips and some learnings that we experienced in that. It was challenging in that there was the added concern of COVID as the evacuees were taken out of community into Lloydminster. There was a COVID outbreak, and it was hard to manage that outbreak when the provincial guidelines became more relaxed, and we needed to work closely and stronger together with the Saskatchewan health authorities and the SPSA and different representatives. So we're learning and we're sharing information. We also have contractors and services and relationship with the Canadian Red Cross, and looking at as best as we can, because there is funding attached to emergency situations where we would like to explore the opportunities for services closer to home, for rescue type situations and training. So it's about it's an evolving process, and sharing with our fellow partners, Prince Albert Grand Council and NITHA, and keeping abreast of the situations such as the fire and flooding situations, getting updates and keeping all our networks informed, and just doing the best that we can to handle those emergent situations. So I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure if I did.
No, thank you for that. And I know you're in the midst of every day, and I appreciate the work you do. I'm going to switch over to Vice Chief Desani for one quick question, and then I'll hopefully get back to you both a bit later. But Vice Chief, just last week you faced an evacuation at Stanley Mission due to a forest fire in your territory, and I think we're very thankful that I don't believe anybody was hurt, and that the rain came and helped deal with that, maybe quicker than it has in the past. But one of the things that you and I have had conversations about in the past is the actual access to to your home community of Hatchet Lake and the Wollaston Lake Road, and how that potentially is an impediment to emergency planning, especially in the forest fire situation. You had a fire there a few years ago. Could you just speak to the importance of road access as it leads to emergency planning for your home nation?
Thank Gary. Good to see you there. With climate change, our ice road season is getting shorter and shorter. And like I said, we're earlier before this meeting, we're still missing 2 people that are presumed drowned just trying to get across to the lake. 3 people had drowned just back in November. And there was a teacher that went through the ice. The vehicle landed on a floating ice just under the water. So there's been lots of tragedies, people being lost, just trying to get into the community. With climate change, it's getting harder and harder. We've been advocating to get that road built. And back in, I think, 2012, a couple of years ago, we had the perfect storm. We had the fire surrounding the community. Our airport wasn't operating. You can't land planes because the fire was just close by the community. We ended up getting some helicopters to move people out of the community and into Points North. And we had a Hercules that landed in Points North, and we had to evacuate that way. So it's very important to have that access. We had some commitment there to get that road built and finished, but very little support. We're halfway done, but we need that ongoing support to get that road finished. We're not asking for much, and we're just in the backyards of the biggest uranium deposits in northern Saskatchewan. There's no reason why we continue to not have that road built. Last 30, 40 years, we've been advocating to get that road built. Why is it so hard? We're halfway there. The equipment is there. Why can we continue to work on it this summer? And that's what we've been saying to the ministers. And we still haven't heard. Last week, they were supposed to meet with Minister Fox. We haven't heard back. Maybe, but there's millions of dollars coming out of our backyards, and we can't get this road finished. So that's where we're at, and we're always on top. The Grand Council, I was there with our first Red Cross and our emergency SAS First Nation emergency management. We're on top of it, and we continue to provide that support for our communities. And we've done it so many times. I feel like we're the experts in dealing with emergency management. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Morasti, I'm going to ask you to make a clear statement on this because I just limited time. So I'm going to try to get you to do this in a couple of minutes or less. When you were talking about your SWOT analysis, one of the weaknesses you talked about lockdowns, and under the threat you talked about working from home. I just want you to make a statement so we get it on the record so that we know in the future, if we were ever to face something similar to what we did with the COVID-19 pandemic, what would be your recommendation for the communities that you serve to respond to things like lockdowns and working from home?
Well, number one, we need to have the infrastructure in place. We need to have cell towers and connectivity so that we can stay connected to our contacts in the communities and provide, the opportunity for homeschooling, educational opportunities, and mental health supports. And we also need to pivot and be flexible and find ways to meet the mandates of our programs and services in a unique setting where it is highly reliant on virtual technologies and basically serving our people, meeting their needs when there's vast distances. In the Middle Lake Tribal Council, our furthest First Nation is 3.5 hours away. And if there's lockdowns and we're not able to travel, we have to be able to guide and direct our First Nations and work with them, get their advice and their direction virtually. And so I would say that the connectivity, the high-speed internet, the cell towers are key in working from home and meeting needs of our community members. Thank you for that question.
And thank you for that answer. I was actually going to ask Vice Chief Tassani this question, but I think, Vice Chief, you've done a great job of advocating for the Canadian Rangers in northern Saskatchewan. So I'm going to change this up a little bit, and I want to ask Mr. Coates, obviously a very knowledgeable gentleman, would you speak to the suggestion that Vice Chief Desani has made about a Canadian Rangers base in northern Saskatchewan? And do you believe that would be beneficial for many of the reasons that the Vice Chief has so admirably advocated for already in his presentation today?
The Vice Chief has spoken about two things. He has spoken about the Rangers and the role that they could play in the defense of the North and the sort of first alerts. He's also talked about search and rescue capabilities based in northern Saskatchewan with the ability to reach way up into the Arctic. I concur with both of those things. And this is a classic example of sort of where we look at have to look at the long-term and multiple effects of something. Taking on something like that could actually be enriching for the communities, bring spirit and pride and enthusiasm to the young people. I've been with the folks in La Ronge and watched what the young people do there. They are so excited about the activities. They have a similar arrangement in the Yukon where there are ranger groups up there. I'm sure the ministers worked with them. The passion and energy, this actually brings life to those young people. So don't just do it because of search and rescue or because of military preparedness. Do it because of all the other things that come along with a comprehensive approach.
Thank you for that. And I do have a little bit of time left. So, Vice Chief, you are going to get the last word on this. So, Vice Chief, get on the record again, your advocacy for a Canadian Rangers base in northern Saskatchewan, and talk until the chair cuts you off, please.
We have those capabilities already. We're doing some of the work already in terms of search and rescue. We find the people that can't be found. And those capabilities, I've been to into Ottawa with the military and checked out this high definition camera that can see 40 kilometers away, infrared through smoke. We want those capabilities. It takes 2 weeks to train a student to operate that camera. And we have the biggest resources, our young people. And who best can survive in the northern regions than our people? We can provide that service. And like you said, it's not where I'm not looking for combat people. I'm looking for that support. We can deliver fuel into the Arctic. We can provide ground support. We can provide the food if needed into certain situations. We have those people. We have those capabilities, and we can provide that support that is going to be needed in case of emergency services. So we're a willing partner. We have the airlines, we have the young people, we have the technology, we have the companies to build our capacities. We need the support, and we need to strategize, like we talked about, strategize and to come together. I think at the end of the day, the feds, the provincial and the First Nations, and come together in the Arctic and to put those strategies, to come together in strategy, and to come up with the best solution for our northern communities. And I want to go to the Arctic. I love the North so much. Thank you very much.